like, off of Industrial? You turned off of Industrial? Okay, so the building where the tag office is? No, McDonough. Are you in Stockbridge? Okay. No, not McDonough Parkway, Henry Parkway. Oh. Well, there's still people coming in if you come down to Industrial and take a left, across from where, the QT is. And then make another left and it'll be on your right just a little bit. Okay. Okay. Bye. That's Teresa. It did say McDonald's. Oh, no, I didn't see that. No, I don't think I did, but I remember seeing it.
Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Board meeting of Thursday, May 11th, 2017. This meeting is being televised live on Charter Channel 180 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99 and will be rebroadcast every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. and Saturday at 12:30 p.m. and is available by video on demand on the county website. Now would be a good time to turn off your cell phones, anything else that makes any noise. And if you're here with a hat on, you might want to take your hat off. If you wish to speak tonight, you'll need to fill out a public hearing speaker card. We allot 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of a case that we're hearing tonight, and 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they all share the 10-minute slot and so on. Please address the board, not the audience, when you come to speak. Those applicants presenting their cases are counted as those speaking in favor of the case and will share the 10-minute slot. At this time, Pete Peterson will now lead us in the invocation and the pledge. Please stand.
For the Lord is good, and his mercy endures forever. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and your many blessings. Lord, please bless our great nation, the state of Georgia and Henry County. Tonight, we ask that you would give us your divine wisdom and guidance as we consider the work of Henry County. Let everything be done in an orderly manner with compassion for our fellow citizens. Finally, Lord, as we approach this Mother's Day weekend, help us to properly honor and celebrate all of our mothers for their love, care, and their leadership. It's in Christ's name we pray, and we thank God. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is now called to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion by Mr. Nelson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Peterson. Is that who I heard? Okay. Mr. Peterson, any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay. I do have a motion to approve the March 9th and March 23rd minutes.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve March 3rd and March 9th minutes.
Oh, it's the March 9th and March 20th.
March 9th and March 23rd.
Okay. Okay, I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Okay, motion carried. Staff comments.
Madam Chair, we have a few comments to address tonight. First and foremost, rezoning case number RZ 17-09-H, Rio Funding Solutions, LLC of Atlanta, Georgia. That case has been withdrawn, and the following case has been postponed until the May 25th ZAB meeting, and that is case number VR-17-06-H. And one last item, we would like to formally welcome our new District 2 Zoning Advisory Board appointee, Mrs. Susan King. If you all would help me and join me in welcoming her.
Welcome, Ms. King. Thank you. Okay, we're now going to move on to the agenda items. If the staff will call the first case.
Case number CU-17-01. Leslie Morrison of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a conditional use for a property located at 648 Ward Road in land lots 225, 226, 255, and 256 of the 11th District. The properties consist of 4.58 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a place of worship, and it's located in Commission District 5 and will be presented by Mr. Justin Kilgore, Planner 1.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, Board.
Good evening, and I can't hear you.
Sorry.
They need to turn his mic up, I guess. Okay.
Good evening. This conditional use is for a potential church located at 648 Ward Road. The property consists of approximately 4.58 acres, and I'm going to show everyone where it is in relation to Highway 155. One moment. The applicant is planning on using the existing vacant home as a parsonage that's on the property. Of the 3 storage buildings on the site, 2 of the buildings are supposed to be removed and 1 is to remain for storage. Staff has found no previous zoning records for the subject property, and the applicant is proposing to build a standalone church on the property in addition to the proposed parsonage. Staff has evaluated this conditional use request and has recommended approval of the conditional use with 3 conditions, and I'll stick those up for you right now. And I'm here to answer any questions if you may have them.
Okay, do any of the board members have any questions for staff?
Yes, I have questions.
Mr. Nelson.
First of all, now, does it meet those conditions as of this point?
No, sir, it does not.
Okay.
The site currently is undeveloped for this potential use, and if I may, I'll show you the, this is the due south photo.
Okay.
And this is the structure that is
Okay.
proposed use for the parsonage
Okay.
for the
And-
potential church.
Now, based on my knowledge, I didn't see an entrance off of 155. You indicated 155. Is there an entrance off 155 to this property?
No, sir, there is not. I indicated 155 just to give people a point of reference, sir.
Okay. All right. Now, I guess I have a question for DOT, and that's in reference to the Ward Lake Road area. Is there a possibility of setting a decel lane there at that area?
On the, I don't know if I'm on, okay. Yeah, I'm on, okay. On the their zoning plan that they show a deceleration lane. Technically, per code, that road is not classified collector or above, to where Am I good? All right, so the road is actually classified as a local road. Our deceleration requirements typically are tied to a collector and above, which this is below that. But their site plan does show a deceleration lane, and I think Justin has it as a proposed condition. So if you want to require a deceleration lane on this site plan, you certainly can. And like I say, their initial development zoning plat shows a deceleration lane.
Anyone else have any questions for staff? Mr. Risher?
What are the speed limits at that intersection of Ward Drive and Ward Road?
Ward Road's 35, I believe. I think I went in on Google Earth Street View trying to find speed limits on that road, but I believe it's posted at 35.
Thank you.
Any other board members have any questions for staff? Okay, I have a question. So, this, it says church religious facility on proposed use, but then I heard you say they're gonna use it as a parsonage. And a parsonage is where, someone lives, so it wouldn't necessarily be a church facility, and I'm just wondering why they would have to have conditional use to live in a house that they're already allowed to be able to live in. I mean, or, unless they're, because it's, they wanna build a church, is that what it's about? It's building the church?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the conditional use is so they can build a church, but the house is gonna be used not as a church, but as a parsonage.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, what's to keep them from using the house as a church?
I would think that that could be stipulated by the staff, by this board, you know, that the
Yes,
that the house
Mr.
would be
Risher is
used
accurate
as a
in that
parsonage
that could be
only.
a condition of this conditional use. And, excuse me, with respect to mass assembly, it would also have to meet inspection with regard to the fire marshal. And so if what they intend to do with that house actually goes toward it being or serving as a place of worship, then there would need to be certain development requirements met before they are issued their certificate of occupancy.
So for parsonage, they wouldn't need a decel lane, is that a correct statement, or? will
For the
they need a-
overall use of that property, and with it being a place of worship or a local church, then with that, they would have to meet DOT requirements. So the parsonage is a part of the church campus, so to speak. That's what you can, that probably would be a better way of looking at it or viewing it, a church with a parsonage. So with that use being technically a commercial type of use, even though the property is not zoned commercially, they will be required to meet those commercial standards according to DOT.
I think, I thought I just heard him say that a decel lane was not required on that
On
that
Ward Road? Or,
Right.
I think the question was regarding 155, is that right, Mr. Nelson?
I'm sorry, say again.
Your question regarding a decel lane was about Highway 155, is that correct, or was it Ward
It was in
Road?
reference to Ward Road,
Okay.
because that was one of the conditional use for that
Okay,
area.
with respect to Ward Road, and David is right.
Oh, okay, so so one of the conditions is a decel lane is required, and so the question was, is there a decel lane that's required? And I heard David say no, but it's one of the conditions.
That is correct, and if it pleases the ZAB to strike that as part of your motion and recommendation, that's at your discretion.
Okay. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any more questions. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, if we can call the applicant up, please state your name and address for the record. I'm sorry. I need the applicant to please come forward for this case. State your name and address for the record.
Leslie Morrison, 3757 Ravenwood Chase,
In what city?
Stockbridge.
Stockbridge, okay. Welcome. Do you have anything you would like to add to the staff's comments?
If there was
Was there anything you would like to add to staff comments regarding this case?
no,
We apologize for the technical difficulty. So we just want to know if you want to add anything. You can speak toward this case.
oh, just to say that right now we're in the storefront. It's a small space, and we'd like to build on this property, and that's why we applied for a conditional use permit, so that we can, start doing our outreach ministry, food pantry and clothes distribution. And so if, the board would allow us, we'd really appreciate that.
Do any board members have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I have a question.
Mr. Nelson?
Now, what's your overall intent of this property? What's the overall intent of the use of the property?
For church facility?
So your intent is to actually build a church on the property?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you live there at the property now?
No.
Okay, so are you the pastor of the church?
Yes.
Okay, and so you plan on living at the house?
No, one of my deacons who will be maintaining the property will be living there.
Okay, so it's going to be for a residence?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Okay.
So we're going to allow the remaining 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of this case. If you want to speak in favor of this case, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. All right, is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition of this case? Please you come forward, please state your name and address for the record. This is for this case.
Yes, my name is Ben Doherty. I live at 66 Ward Drive. This property is across the road from the property that's adjacent to my property, and I've had a lot of problems with this property across the road. And this property has been RA for 50 years, I guess, or longer. And single-family dwelling, and everybody around there is single-family dwelling. And it's a very curvy road, dangerous road to drive on. You can't see around the curve. You can't see this house when you're in the curve, or people coming out of their driveway. And right now, the property across the road from it is vacant, and they're violating the codes. County codes are here on that piece of property now, have been doing it for last year. No one has done nothing about it, and there's been these conditional usage issued by the county, and then they come back a week or 2 weeks or a month later, and they go into the courts because everything they said was not lived up to, was not carried out, the amendments and the addendums were all violated, and all the community was in uproar and had to go back to courts. And I've been to court twice myself because people on the property across the road from it tried to put in a dump truck business, waking us up in the middle of the night and early in the mornings. And then they tried to put in a dog pound. It's a RA property. And it's in violation right now. There's trailers parked down there now. It's in violation of county code, and nothing is done about it. But I don't care. It doesn't make a lot of noise. I don't care what people do as long as they don't disturb me and bother me and my property. But this is, the people in that community, a lot of them are here tonight, and they're all against this. They want us to stay the way it was supposed to stay in RA. And when y'all give these continuous and variations, it always ends up bad for the people in the neighborhood. The overcrowdedness right now, that house has a dirt driveway and there's no place to park. There's only been, the most I've ever seen at that house at any time in the past 30 years has been 2 cars at one time, the most. Usually there's only one. I knew Mr. Rogers when he bought the house. He bought it for his son. And he lived up there till just recently. And we shouldn't even have to be coming down here defending the RA property, because that's what it is. We bought it and retired there so that we would have it.
Give us a few minutes, sir.
Oh, somebody else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Deacon James Chester with Green Forest Community Baptist Church. I live at Chateau Estates off of Ward Road. I have no problems with the church being put there, but I have a problem with the fact that that lane, that Ward Road, is not designed for the kind of traffic that would occur if we open up a church that has a parking lot for 50 spaces at that particular location. You asked about the deceleration lane that's on Ward Road. I've talked to the county engineer about putting in rumble strips and all kinds of other things because of the dangers of the 2 curves that are on Ward Road, and I've been told that there's nothing he could do about it. The Highway 155 is 55 miles per hour at that intersection. The deceleration lane going north is extremely short. You'd have to modify that. And for us going back and forth to work every day, driving through that, when we've seen traffic routed over onto that road because they closed the adjacent road next to it, it's a nightmare. Plus, you've got a golf course that brings traffic on the other side. It's just not a good traffic solution, and you're going to have to make traffic modifications to make that work.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Rainey, and this is my husband.
Melvin Rainey.
And we've been living in that residence at 6205 Hearn Road for almost the last 18 to 19 years. That particular area there, the traffic is horrible. And the speed limit does say 55, but I travel that road to go to work every day, and those cars do not go 55 miles per hour. That traffic is going almost 60 to 65 miles per hour. And where that house is at, it's nothing. It was only 2 cars there, like the man expressed. It's horrible there. It's no place to park. And in our community, it keeps coming up with storefront churches, house churches, and I don't have anything against that because our community needs that for our children, our adults, for us to make a better way. But it doesn't make sense for our community to keep going down with people just putting things there that doesn't make sense in that little, it needs to be rezoned or something. That animal shelter there, I don't even know what happened there. It's like a dumping ground. It has never been so bad before in our area.
And I also like to say, I'm a little bit different from my wife. I don't see any need for a storefront or home church in our area. There's several churches in that area, I believe, that's vacant. If they want to purchase one of those churches, they need to pursue one of those areas. We do not need any home front churches in our neighborhood. The only thing to do is bring down our neighborhood. And church folks, they supposed to be nice, but we all know church folks can be some evil people. They would destroy your property, and they would not care anything about it. And I strongly oppose approving any kind of storefront or house church to come to our neighborhood. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Carlos Armstead, and I live at 195 Versailles Place, and I'm currently the president of Shadow Estate Homeowners Association. And it's like James Chester mentioned a few minutes ago, that is not a good area, that Ward Road, the way that twist and turn, and then you're coming off of 155, which 55, 65, sometimes 75 miles an hour just to turn to go down Ward Road. And we go that way, you know, to work, and we go that way to church. And I don't have anything against a church, but not at that location. That is not the right location to have a church there, especially if the congregation is growing, and that's just not the right place for that. And I'm definitely opposed to it.
Good evening, board. My name is David Parks, and I'm with my wife, Charlotte Parks. Our house will be directly next door to the proposed church, and I really think that would be a horrible idea of adding 50 spaces behind our house for your church members. Now, we moved to that area for a different quality of life. Now we're going to be getting up Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings. Traffic's going to be horrible, and it really doesn't make any sense to bring 50 people to 60 people in a house that was designed for 4. So you're going to bring 50 people in a single-family dwelling house. It really doesn't make any sense. We won't be able to get out our own neighborhoods on Sunday. We won't be able to get out on Wednesday nights. I'm not against the church, not at all, but I'm just against that church being in that particular house. We don't need that. We need some families living out there, not a church, not right now. You got 10 churches within 4 miles. You got 3 empty. If you wanted a church, you can buy one of those. Thank you.
Almost a minute now.
We also have about a minute for anybody else who wants to speak in opposition of this case. Okay, I don't see anyone else coming up. Do any of the board members have any questions for staff or the applicant?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Richard, for the staff or applicant?
For the staff, I just want to make it clear that what is proposed on this property is a 5,500 square foot church building. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And associated with that would be 50 parking spaces. So
Approximately, yes, sir.
yeah, because there seems to be some impression that that the existing home is going to be turned into a church, but that's going to be the parsonage, as I understand it, from the earlier presentation.
I have a question for David about the intersection, the stopping sight distance. You said you were out there, David. What did that look like as far as like coming around that curve and people stopping, to turn into the church? Does that seem like it's, because there's an intersection there too, I saw. That was coming right, almost right before it.
For clarification, unfortunately, I have not been out there, but I have looked at the topo map from where they propose their driveway, looking to the left or to the west down Ward. You're looking basically uphill. The road is steadily climbing to the west, but you do have the curve down there. And I was looking before I came over here. The sight distance for 35 miles an hour is 390 feet. That will be possibly a challenge to get that 390 feet minimum. They may be able to get it, but your 390, if they put their driveway near the eastern property line, they'll start to go around the curve by the time they get to 390 feet. So it'll be kind of close as to whether they can get the sight distance there.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions. Any other questions for staff at this time? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and call the case.
Case number CU-17-01, Leslie Morrison of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 648 Ward Road in land lots 225, 226, 255, and 256 of the 11th District. The property consists of 4.58 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a place of worship. The property is located in Commission District 5 and was presented by Mr. Justin Kilgore, Planner 1.
Do I have a motion for this case?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to deny the request for a conditional use of this property.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Nelson of denial of a CU 1701. Do I have a second?
Second.
I second.
I have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Next case?
Case number RZ-17-08, Fears Drive, Henry 58 LLC of Stockbridge, Georgia, request a rezoning from R3, single-family residence, to RA, residential agricultural, for property located on Fears Drive in land lots 216 and 217 of the 6th District. The property consists of 55.73 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a reversion. This property is located in Commission District 2 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening.
board members. The property before you tonight is highlighted in this green hatched area. It's on Fears Drive, which is here. Old Highway 3 is to the west, and you have Wind Drive to the east, and it's just north of the Hampton city limits. I want to let the board know that this property is already zoned R3, which is a single-family residence zoning district. So it's important to keep in mind that this property is already zoned for a subdivision. This property was rezoned on December the 4th of 2006. The applicant requests to revert the zoning back to RA, residential agricultural. The future land use map calls for rural residential. And this rural residential, which is indicated in this sage green, is for land development less than 1 house per acre. And so the request to go back to RA, residential agricultural, complies with the future land use map, which is the county's policy guide. And staff has evaluated the applicant's request, and we do recommend approval.
Okay, do the board members have any questions for staff? Okay. At this time, we'll ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Crawford, 130 Low Street, McDonough, Georgia, representing the applicant.
Do you have anything you'd like to add to staff's comment?
No, thank you, other than it's just a reversion from R3 to RA.
Okay, do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant?
I do.
Okay, Ms.
I
King?
do. So bear with me. Why do you want to change back? What is your purpose ultimately down the road for the property?
Ultimately, down the road is unknown. It's been zoned R3. It was rezoned R3 for potential development, and that didn't happen. And so just reversion back to RA is a request of the client with no future knowledge of what to put there.
What could potentially happen there?
Homes.
Right. If the property is 55 acres, being zoned RA, residential agricultural, with that many acres, it could be used for a single-family residence, or it could be used for agricultural purposes. It is possible to develop an RA subdivision with a minimum of 2-acre lots. However, under R3, you could have a residential subdivision, and though the minimum lot size is much smaller in R3, you could voluntarily have a residential development with a lot size of 2 acres, and so that's not likely going to be something that the applicant will pursue.
Is there what's the tax implication of changing it from the R3 to a RA, or is it the same for that?
I have to tell you that that's not my expertise, and I just don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, was it? Okay, I apologize.
Madam
All right.
Chair?
Yes, yes, sir.
That question will be best answered by our tax assessors.
Okay, okay. Well, that answers our question. We can't get the question answered. All right. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated. We have about 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes left for those who want to speak in favor of this case. Alrighty, and we are going to now allot 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of this case. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
This is my first time doing this. I'm not familiar with it, but this property is right on my line. We thought we were moving to the country, and they want to build houses backed up on my
Ma'am,
property.
I need your name and address. I
Oh,
apologize.
Yvonne Austin, 245 Fears Drive.
Okay, and that's, what's McDonough, what's the city?
I can't hear you. I'm hard of
What's
hearing.
the city, your complete address?
245 Fears.
And what's the city?
Hampton, Georgia.
Hampton, Georgia, okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, and continue, I'm sorry, I just had to have your name and address for the record.
Okay, well, we just have a problem that this is going to create more traffic on our road. There's enough cars flying down through there. It's not a paved road, it's gravel. And we are just afraid that it's going to cause more traffic through there. And like I said, we thought we were moving to the country where we could spend our retirement there. But I'm afraid if they put these homes in there, it's going to bring the property value down. And I'm not for it at all. And I know my son and daughter-in-law are not. They live in front of us, but they couldn't be here because they had to go out of town. But I hope y'all think about this seriously.
Okay, anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case? And for clarification, they're changing it from an R3 family residential to RA residential agricultural. Okay, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Anyone else want to speak in opposition? Okay, do the board members have any questions for the staff or applicant? All right, let's call the case.
Case number RZ-17-08, Fierce Drive, Henry 58 LLC of Stockbridge, Georgia, request a rezoning from R3 single-family residence to RA residential agricultural for property located on Fierce Drive in land lots 216 and 217 of the 6th District. The property consists of 55.73 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a reversion. This property is located in Commission District 2 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill, Chief Planner.
Do I have a motion for this case?
I make a motion that we go ahead and approve this revision request.
Okay, we have a motion for approval by Ms. King, and do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second by Mr. Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. You call the next case, please.
Case number COMP-AM-17-01, Debbie Elliott and Holly Rediker of Sewanee, Georgia, request a comprehensive plan amendment for property located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Highway 155 and Kellytown Road in land lots 58 and 71 of the 11th District. The property consists of 5 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from rural residential to commercial. This property is located in Commission District 4 and will be presented by Ms. Julie Yoder, Planner 1.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
The comprehensive plan amendment before you this evening is for the property located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Highway 155 and Kellytown Road, as shown on the map. And the request is to change the future land use map designation from rural residential to commercial. The applicant in this case is requesting C1 neighborhood commercial in a rezoning case running concurrently with this one. A request to amend the future land use map designation for the subject property does not seem reasonable based on the current zoning trends of this area. This portion of Highway 155 and Kellytown Road have a predominantly rural residential character. It is proper planning practice to encourage commercial development first within commercial nodes to prevent further sprawl of development. And there are several policies in the comprehensive plan that support this. For these reasons, staff recommends denial, and I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Does any board members have questions for staff? Okay, if not, we'd like to ask the applicant to come forward, please. please state your name and address for the record, and you will be allotted 10 minutes for, along with the...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Andy Welch. I'm representing the Elliott family in this rezoning request, where this is a comp plan amendment first and then the rezoning request to follow. I'm at 2200 Keys Ferry Court is where our office is, and my name is Andy Welch. I wanted to point out a few things about this comp plan amendment request, and the most important thing that I think that you should be aware of is that this particular area of Henry County was designated on the comp plan for a rural nature originally, and it still is today. The comp plan was adopted in 2009, April of 2009. So it's 8 years old, and what we're looking at here is and even the Board of Commissioners is considering a revamp of the comprehensive plan for Henry County presently. And I think it's informative to you because the comp plan is based upon, what are the conditions at the time, where do you think things would go in the future, and I'd like to take you back in time, if I could, to this area before. And mind you, this property has been in the Elliott family for over 150 years. It has been traditionally agricultural by their own use. But over time, subdivisions have developed along the Kellytown Road area, also along the Reagan Road area, and this community has transformed into a far more public area in the terms of commercial activity or institutional activities. Let me take you back in time, 2005. This here is the subject property, this 5 acres here at this corner. This was Ford Road. As you can tell, it was a dirt road at the time, and this was circa 2005. So just before the comp plan was to be adopted in 2009 and initiated in 2007, this area was a dirt road going into Kellytown Road, which is the main thoroughfare into Kellytown, Georgia, the Kellytown portion of Henry County. That road went all the way down past the Primitive Baptist Church, intersected with 155 at probably a 45-degree angle. That was at that time that was the case. And then in 2009, this is September of 2009, so this is after the comp plan had been adopted. All the public hearings had gone through in 2008. In early 2009, April is when it was adopted. This was just the paving, the first initial paving of Ford Road. And so that began the paving of this road. Then things rapidly changed. Now, obviously, you see the school. This is an elementary school here, church located here, a residential acreage here, the farm here, and then the relocation of Reagan Road coming into 155 was relocated to this position, leaving a cul-de-sac at the end of the old road, and this was being paved at that time. And you'll see here subdivisions developing right next to this interchange here. So before it was an open field area there, and then developing into a subdivision here. This is developed into a agro-business here at this location. This is the Yule Farm that's located right south of this interchange, which has a lot of high traffic in the fall and winter. And then we get to what happens in 2014 when the county decides to move essentially Kellytown Road from this location here and put it into Ford Road. And you'll see the grading work, the massive grading work, and this was land taken by, for public condemnation, taken by, from the Elliott family to build a massive roadway and intersection here, realignment of Reagan Road here into this intersection here, cutting off substantial portions of their property on this side of the road, moving the intersection actually closer to the agribusiness here, and then ultimately what it is today is a 5-lane intersection, and every direction. This is 4 on this side, I believe, but 5 lanes on 155, 5 lanes here, 5 lanes here. This is a massive, massive intersection. It's one of the largest intersections that's not attributed to a downtown area in the county. Kellytown Road now, where all that traffic used to flow through this way and come down Kellytown Road past the old family farm, now goes right through Ford Road, and now is called is Kellytown Road, and this is old Kellytown Road, which now is dead end at the end, so it doesn't even interact or intersect with 155. 155 itself was shifted to the west of the Primitive Baptist Church, moving in this direction. It used to come in right here, and now it comes in this way, going again by the agribusiness, school system here, church here, Victory Tabernacle here, residential subdivision this way here. It's through these transportation improvements, which are needed, but they're needed because of the large quantity of traffic that flows through this area. And it also is indicative of the changes and circumstances that have been brought about by governmental decisions on my client's property. And so we have simply come in to ask to be given a designation of the comp plan and then a corresponding application for rezoning for commercial use at this particular corner. A very limited neighborhood-friendly commercial use as designated by your zoning ordinance. And that is, and I just wanted you to be aware of the history of what's happened here, because I think it's significant. Because remember, the comp plan that's guiding the staff's decision, and they're right to follow the comp plan. That is their paramount model, is to follow that comp plan. But that comp plan was adopted when Ford Road was being considered when Ford Road was a dirt road, a small agricultural dirt road, and then was adopted shortly after they decided to pave it into a 2-lane road. Since that adoption, the comp plan that area has changed substantially in what is feasible there. So imagine yourselves living on that corner in a single-family home at that massive intersection with all of this traffic that is occurring here. I don't think you'll find that anyone would want to do that. And I suspect what you'll find is that the remaining house at that corner eventually will come to you and ask to have their land use changed to commercial as well. And and so that's the reason for the request. I will point out one other intersection that I think is very similar in what has transpired since the comp plan has occurred, and this is up at Fairview Road. Fairview Road coming in, I believe, let's see, I got my directions here. I think it's this direction here, Fairview Road coming in here. Massive roundabout installed after the comp plan's been adopted. And you'll note that there are commercial 2 gas station and convenience store service stations here located on either corner of this intersection that predated that particular massive interchange. If you see this pressure occurring at these interchanges where there's been massive changes in the intersections to afford commercial activity, then I think you would also agree that it's highly unlikely that the other corners will be developed into a single-family residence, an RA agricultural residence, in fact. So this intersection, I'll get into this in a little bit more detail in our zoning request, but I wanted you to see what has transpired over time along this corridor that has precipitated the family's request for that rezoning, or for that designation change on the future land use map. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Welch, is this part of, or maybe this is a question for staff, is this part of the, like a new overlay district? This would fit into that?
Madam Chair, this particular location is included in the Highway Corridor Overlay District that was just adopted by the Board of Commissioners last month, April. Yes, last month, April. And the reason being is that it actually abuts Highway 155, and any parcel that touches those roads in the county that are a part of the Highway Corridor Overlay are encompassed within the overlay. So yes, this property would be included in that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. At this time, we'd like to allot the remaining minutes for anyone that'd like to speak in favor of this position. no one's coming forward, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for those speaking in opposition of the case.
Mr. Nelson, just for clarity, the overlay was adopted March 7th.
I'm sorry?
The overlay was adopted March 7th, so
March.
it was 2 months ago.
2 months ago.
Time is flying.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Danae Weber. I live at 707 Forest Glen Drive in McDonough, Georgia, 30252. And I'm speaking on behalf of some of the residents at Brook Hollow subdivision, which is located not even half a mile away from this location where they want to put a gas station. There's an elementary school as well as a church directly across the street from this location. A major gas station or any kind of business such as a Family Dollar or something like that would be detrimental to our community. And the reason why I say that is because it brings an element of crime. During this time, when you bring in the gas stations and so forth, you have loitering, you have congregations. These perpetrators, they'll commit these crimes, and they're crimes of opportunity, and they'll speed out of the parking lot. Now, depending on the time of the day that they're doing this, the kids are leaving from Pleasant Grove School, which is right across the street. Then you have the church that's across the street, too. This is hazardous, not only to the drivers that may be in that parking lot or the church parking lot for a function or whatever, but it's also hazardous to pedestrians as well as the children who are riding on these school buses, just in case someone does decide that they want to commit a crime at the gas stations. All of these carjackings, loiterings, shootings, drug sales are just some of the crimes that take place at gas stations at major intersections. We don't want any of this in our quiet residential community. This location is not conducive to any commercial property. We have an extreme fear, not only for ourselves, but for our children's safety as well. This is a quiet, safe, residential community, and we just don't want any elements to come in here and take that away from us. The Yule Farm is a business, and certain times of the year there is a little bit of traffic, but it's a great place for families to go, whether it's during the Christmas holiday or whether it's during Halloween. It's a great place for everyone to go. More traffic will come with commercial property. I understand that this person has shown the different developments that's going on in there, but honestly, a residential area needs to stay residential and rural. Thank you.
My name is Michael Gibbs, 120 Ashland Ridge, McDonough, Georgia. My name is Michael Gibbs. I live at 120 Ashland Ridge, McDonough, Georgia. Okay. I live back where this development would be, and I moved out about 20 years ago, and like the lady before me said, we moved out there for a reason, quality of life, and the way it is. And when I found out about the gas station, the Quick Trip to be exact, 20 pumps, as she said, noise pollution, light, it would not be conducive with the neighborhood that we bought, that we live in. And the fact that the property owners want to sell their land, they can sell it. That's fine. We can't dispute them to do that. However, we do have a say-so in what we live next to, and that's not correct. Now, I read the plan, and Attorney Welch said that that gas station showed the circle. In the plan, he says that the furthest station to the north was 5.6 miles. That's 5.6 miles. Actually, the closest station is 1.2 miles with another gas station 3 miles up. Actually, the station to the south, which is 2.9 in the survey, it's actually 2.1 miles. So I look at that and I see the things that said there. We don't want it there. If you had like a daycare center or something like that, perhaps a nursing home, it'd be much more feasible and understandable. The traffic is bad. I go to work, I leave out of here 7 o'clock in the morning. It's bad. People walking their kids to school, and the fact that there's the lanes, he says, there aren't 5 lanes in each direction. Actually, coming to the north, there are 3. That's if you count the turn lane, there's 4. On Kellytown Road going to the left, it's only 3 lanes. You count the turning lane, it's 4. Okay? So, I mean, there are things that are inconsistent with what's been presented to you, and I just think that this is not the right thing to do. Matter of fact, I know it's not. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening. Glenda Newman, 503 Wedge Park Drive, McDonough, Georgia, 30252. This is my first meeting of any kind like this. I'm a transplant to Georgia 7 years ago, and my realtor told me, go down on Kellytown Road. And at that time, the road was as it was described, with an extreme right turn, and coming out of that was extremely dangerous. And within my first year here, I was almost killed by an oncoming car going very fast before the relocation of that. I don't understand the overlay, so maybe if you can tell me what that rezoning or something, is that important?
Madam Chair, would you like me to respond?
Well, at this time,
Okay,
no,
we can
we'd
listen
like
to it. Thank you. I don't want to
continue.
take from my time. So, however, if we spoke about a few minutes ago about the danger of a commercial property at that particular corner, at that corner, I go that way every day to go home and come out from my home. When you make that turn there, you have to get in a decelerating lane to make a right turn. As soon as I saw the road being done, I saw the pavement for some sort of commercial property. There are two already paved areas to go into that parcel of land. One on this side, I'm logistically challenged. So on one on that side and one on that side forward. I said, they're going to put something there. It's going to be a filling station, a 7-Eleven, or a whatever. The most important thing, as a retired registered nurse, right across the way, you have schools. Any commercial property that's offering anything is going to be an enticement for children to leave school, to get away, to go somewhere, to get a bag of potato chips, whatever. And those lanes, that particular spot of 155 is extremely dangerous. People are driving very fast, faster than the posted speed limits. And I speak absolutely strongly as I can in opposed to the change of that, to that commercial use.
We have 3 minutes remaining.
Hey, we'll try to be brief. My name is Jason Dobson, and this is my wife.
I'm Tamara Dobson. We live at 165 Ashland Ridge.
And we live at 165 Ashland Ridge. This is at the very bottom corner right here. So the commercial property that we're talking about, especially if it ends up being a QT, you would have a church 1 block south of it, and you would have a church right across the street. And then diagonally across from it, you have a school. Well, we live in the cul-de-sac of Ashland Ridge. Due to Henry County's busing system, they don't offer a bus because we live too close to the school. So if our kids are supposed to walk to school or to get to school, they would have to cross. It brings crime, it brings traffic, it brings, all this degree in a rural area that we did buy our house from. And also, too, I think a major thing is they have closed the intersection of Kellytown and made it go straight. Well, now, all of a sudden, we live on a dead-end road. So to get to our house, we would have to turn beside the store, come behind the store, and then go all the way to get to our house. So there's no way that it wouldn't decrease your property value. To show the house, you have to go all the way around the store, and who wants to live behind a QT? So besides having kids right across the street.
And I wanted to bring up something, too, that Mr. Welch said. A lot of this rerouting was done because of the dangers that was presented when where Kellytown used to come into 155. That was a horrible intersection, and people died there. That's why this was rerouted, and probably the same thing at Fairview. But still, even still, when you are, when you're coming up, there's a hill here. People fly through that intersection if they have a chance of making that light. They even fly through it when it's yellow. And what he said about, our kids, Henry County has the rule, if you live a mile, you have to walk to school or provide your own transportation. That would be very dangerous. We just don't want the crime. We have heard it is a QT, and we just don't want the crime associated with that. We love our little neighborhood. There's a horse farm right there on the corner of QB Road. That's rural. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. Jeff Davis. I live at 325 Wedgefield Drive, McDonough, Georgia. And I would just like to say is, I'm 21 years old, and I've been living with my grandparents at that address since I was 5. and it's been country. I used to live in Lithonia in DeKalb County, and they have gas stations on every corner by every school, and you see all the problems they have. You see the kids start skipping. No matter what age group nowadays, everything happens. And I moved to Henry County with my grandparents because it was country. I like the country. I went to Pleasant Grove Elementary when I was in elementary school, and I want every kid to have the same experience I had. I didn't have to worry about gas stations or none of that being in the way. And that's all I just want to say. Keep it country.
So you have about 30 seconds. Yes.
First of all, I have a lot to say because I'm a little emotional, but I'm going to say this here. I'm a combat wounded veteran, and I moved out there. My wife got 30 years in, she's still serving. I moved out there in Henry County. I like the place. It's nice and country. And being in combat and being injured in combat, I don't want to see combat coming to our neighborhood with a QT or any type of service station. You bring in liquor sales and everything. And I moved out there for a peace of mind. When you've been deployed 9 times in combat, you go somewhere where it's nice and quiet at. And they changed this area. And I understand what you said about how they circumvent Fairview, but Fairview is 4 or 5 miles away. And it's just, Thank you. I have a lot to say.
Thank you. Does the board member have any additional questions for the applicant or the staff?
I have a question for staff. So there is a red light there, so that slows down the traffic, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I don't know how often the red light is there with the school. I guess there's a turning lane for the school that turns, if you're coming from East Lake, there's a left-hand turning lane to get to the school.
There are turn lanes on each approach to the intersection.
To the school, okay.
There's a southbound right turn lane on 155 to turn to Reagan, and there's a northbound left turn lane on 155 to go to Reagan. And obviously 155 typically is the more dominant side as far as it gets more green time than Kellytown on the average.
And do you guys have any indication as far as like traffic, you know, a gas station versus a daycare? I mean, you know, do we have any indication of?
I'm in kind of some trip generation numbers. It's from a manual. It's basically a U.S. publication. So the numbers vary, but based off of the number of fueling positions, basically you could fuel 20 cars at one time per what's drawn on there. It shows using that ratio, it'd be about 1,600 cars coming in, 1,600 cars going out. And about half of those cars would be passed by, as in they're driving down the road anyway and they stop, but about half of them are expected to be new trips that were not going necessarily by the station to start with.
Well, I was asking versus a daycare going in and out.
I don't have daycare numbers, but it's less than this. A daycare is less than a 20 fueling position gas station.
And I saw on here where it's just it's the request is for RA to C1, so I didn't see where there was a gas station that was listed anyway, so that, yeah.
No end user was listed.
Okay, all right, that's what I needed to know.
I have one question. Based on the conditional use based on the usage as of now and the overlay, Dante, what type of business could we actually put in here?
Any business that's permitted within our ULDC, that's our Unified Land Development Code, would be permitted in the overlay with the exception of those prohibited uses. So with respect to it per se, and I'm not giving any credence to anything, if this were to be a gas station, that is a permitted use as long as the underlying zoning district permits it in our ULDC. And pardon my memory lapse, our overlay district was officially adopted March 23rd, not March 7th.
And is there sidewalks in that overlay district?
Yes, there will be sidewalk requirements. There will be street planting requirements. The architectural standards exceed our minimums in our ULDC. Lighting standards. There will be certain types of material required for the building. It just takes everything to another level when it comes to the visual of any area in the county.
So it would fall up under the current guidelines of the overlay that we've adopted recently?
Yes.
Okay.
Because this development, at the time they render application to the county, that's the time that they vest. They will come in after the official adoption of the overlay, and they will have to comply with those regulations.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any additional questions for staff?
Yeah, just one quick one. I've heard the pros and I've heard the cons. Julie, you said that you guys recommended denial, right?
Yes, sir.
Based on the pros that Mr. Welch presented, do you still stand by the denial? Has anything changed?
We recommended denial because of the residential rural character of the area.
Okay.
Largely, the future land use map calls for rural residential, and that's our policy guide.
Okay.
So
right.
it still stands, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, saying that, I have to ask one question. Do you see this possibly as being a residential? Could we actually put a residential?
This
sometime?
property could be developed residentially,
Okay.
as far as we're aware.
All right. Any additional questions for staff?
I have a question about
Okay.
alcohol sales that close to the school. You can't do that. So
And
potentially a Quick Trip or racetrack. How would that work? Do you know?
Tax office handles that, so I don't know exactly what the measurements would be, but they would have to answer that for you.
And Mr. Rich, you have a question?
Yes, I was going to ask, how large is that entire, triangle, shown on the map, of which this parcel is part of? Is there enough acreage there that it could be practically developed as a residential community?
The entire triangle, if you will, is 22.31 plus or minus acres.
And, okay, now we're, what we're being asked at this time is to amend the land use plan or to consider an amendment to the land use plan. Now, the next step would be to consider the zoning, so we don't necessarily have to, give the zoning that's being requested.
Right, the zoning will
or
come
even
after.
give any, zoning at all.
We'll discuss that case as soon as we complete this one.
Any additional questions for staff? If there's no question at this time, we'd like to call the case.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Comp AM 17-0. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I called the case for you then.
Yes, you did. Case number COMP-AM-17-01. Debbie Elliott and Holly Rediker of Suwanee, Georgia request a comprehensive plan amendment for property located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Highway 155 and Kellytown Road in land lots 58 and 71 of the 11th District. The property consists of 5 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from rural residential to commercial. This property is located in Commission District 4 and was presented by Ms. Julie Yoder, Planner 1.
Okay, at this time, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve Comp AM 17-01.
Okay. Do we have a second? We have a
second.
I second it.
Okay. All right, any discussions? All in favor? All opposed? We have a tie there, Dante. We're at 3-3.
Yes.
Okay.
At this time, the chair actually has the opportunity to
Okay.
break the tie.
At this time, I'm going to vote to approve. Motion carries. Let's hear the next case, please.
Case number RZ-17-03, Debbie Elliott and Holly Rediker of Suwanee, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agriculture to C1 Neighborhood Commercial for property located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Highway 155 and Kellytown Road in land lots 58 and 71 of the 11th District. The property consists of 5 plus or minus acres, and the request is for future commercial. The property is located in Commission District 4 and will be presented by Ms. Julie Yoder. Planner 1.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
This is the rezoning case associated to the aforementioned comprehensive plan amendment, and the request is to rezone from RA Residential Agricultural to C1 Neighborhood Commercial. There's no record of rezoning or conditions found for the subject property. The applicant is requesting to rezone 5.00 plus or minus acres for the purpose of neighborhood commercial use. The end user is unknown, as well as the time frame for development. The land use classification of the future land use map currently is rural residential. Therefore, the rezoning request is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the rezoning request from RA to C1 due to the inconsistency with the future land use map, comprehensive plan, and the rural residential nature of the surrounding area. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay. Does the board have any members for staff? Do you have any questions for staff? Okay, if not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record. And do you have anything to add to staff?
Good evening. Andy Welch again, representing the Kibbe family, the Elliott family with Debbie and Kibbe Elliott here tonight. The request again, and I'm at 22 Keys Ferry Court. I also live in Locust Grove, but the request here is to rezone the property to a neighborhood commercial, which is the lowest commercial designation that is consistent with a neighborhood development. You heard from your planning director, Mr. Gibbs, the overlay district that's been adopted by the Board of Commissioners now governs all the properties that align alongside the major highways that are designated within that ordinance. 155 is one of those. So if you have a property abutting that, then you have to comply with the sidewalk requirements, the landscaping requirements, facade requirements, and development. And also, gasoline service stations would be permitted in those zone districts. A daycare facility would also be permitted. Interestingly, the other uses that are also permitted in a neighborhood commercial zoning classification are churches, schools, places of large assembly, and then pretty much any of your standard strip center commercial developments. This one is being requested specifically for, and we're asking you to limit the uses to that of a filling station, a gas station. If you see fit to allow for it to be a daycare use, that is also acceptable to the Elliott family. But we're trying to concentrate the uses and tell you exactly what we anticipate the sale and use of this property to be. And that is because this is a major intersection, a large intersection, and I know that members have stated earlier that there's a discrepancy in the lanes. I pulled it up again on Google Earth, and I can assure you there are 5 lanes at this intersection, all 3 sides of this. Now, they are turning lanes, but the point of that is to say the magnitude of this intersection is substantial as compared to almost any other section. In fact, I think there are more turning lanes at this intersection in sum total than there are at East Lake Parkway and 155 south of this intersection. That has really changed the dynamics of what can be built there. And then I'll further remind you that this location, based upon the map, that there are no homes located on or adjacent to this particular piece of property. It is within their own family farm that they're asking for this to be zoned for a commercial use. There's not a home adjacent to this particular piece of property. Now, there is a home across the street, and there's a home that the gentleman said at the end of the cul-de-sac that bears off of Reagan Road. But as terms of any other homes that would be at all impacted by what development is there, those are the only 2. And I submit to you that the home on the other side of the road should probably be eventually rezoned as well and designated for a neighborhood commercial as well. But with all that said, I think it's really important to note that the classification of C1 neighborhood commercial is consistent with our daily use. What we use a gas station for is to go by and pick up something on the way home to fill up our cars with gas. That is a very acceptable by our zoning code use within a neighborhood community. And given that it's on a major state highway that has traffic counts of over 8,000 cars going through this intersection, north and south, and upwards of almost 5,000 going east-west through this intersection, this is a heavily traveled intersection as it currently stands. So the use of this property will have a high degree of use in terms of people utilizing that gas station and utilizing the convenience store that would be associated with it. The other uses that are there, the school, the church that's located there, and even to a degree, the commercial agribusiness that's just south of here, are all commercial in nature. They're all considered to be a permitted use within your neighborhood commercial C1 designation. So if those uses are acceptable and they are fine in that location, then the use of a gas station in a C1 zoning classification is also compatible with those particular uses. The zoning may differ, but ultimately what we're talking about is the use of the property. And so we request that you approve the rezoning request, and if you wish to limit the uses of the property, we are also willing to accept a limitation so that there would not be a Dollar General or that kind of retail establishment. We are willing to accept the condition that would limit it to a convenience store, gas station. If you see fit to have a daycare facility, that also I think is very consistent with the neighborhood use. You could add that to the list, and then all the other uses you could exclude. And we would be happy to move forward with that designation because we think that's what really fits this particular very enlarged intersection on 155. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your consideration. I know this is not an easy decision. I don't suggest that it is, but I do appreciate your thought and any questions you have, I'm happy to answer them.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I don't.
Any questions? Okay, you may be seated. At this time, we'd like to allot the remaining 4 minutes to anyone speaking in favor of the case. 4 minutes and 29 seconds for those speaking in favor of the case. Okay. Okay. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for those speaking in opposition of the case. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Kylie Harrod of 676 Kibbe Road. Mr. Welch got a little bit tongue-tied. You know, I know there's the Elliots and the Kibbes, and there's also a Kibbe Elliott, but I think that I can speak for the Kibbe family, which he got a little tongue-tied there, and he was trying to say that. But for the Kibbe community, I think I can say we do not want a convenience store there. He was talking about how we just got, you know, the roads changed with Kellytown and 155. There's a lot more lanes there, but that's also helping the high school students that are driving through that way every day. And it's a lot safer for them. It's not necessarily that doesn't make it the best place to have a convenience store. Saying, and also the house right across the street from it. Everyone has the right to their property, and he was kind of being a little forward, saying that might one day, you know, that person might want to make it commercial. But I've seen him going, you know, to school or to work. He seems very happy, just on his rocking chair with no worry in the world. But yeah, as a whole in the Kibbe community and Kellytown, we don't want a convenience store there. At the very least, if we had to have something there, a daycare, but we don't need the traffic, we don't need the crime, we don't need any of that there. But that's all I have to say. I mean, I have more, but I'll let these people talk too. Thank you.
I'm Mike Harrod, 676 Kibbe Road, but yeah, it seems like after the last one, y'all have your minds made up, but I mean, everybody spoke, the staff recommended against it, and then, I don't know, maybe the Elliots have too much pull. But everybody that moved into this area moved for the way it is. If we want a commercial, we go to 75, Henry County, where it's already built up, so we're just all against.
My name is Cindy Price, and I live at 320 Wedgefield Drive in McDonough. I live right off of Kellytown Road, and I've been there for 21, almost 22 years now. And I moved to Kellytown for a reason, and it wasn't to have gas stations on the corner. It was the country life. My kids, there's just something about Kellytown, and what you're doing right now is taking that away from our kids. I don't know if y'all understand that or not, but our kids like being in the country. They like that not being on top of each other. And what you're doing right now, you know, y'all talk about, or it's been talked about how this new road, well, Kellytown Road, when it came into 155 before, it was dangerous. I mean, I was in one of those wrecks, a very serious wreck. So, I mean, that had to happen because it was all the time that was happening. So it wasn't just because of this new thing. But what you're doing right there, you know, it's one thing to have a daycare or something that's not going to bring in excessive traffic, but you're talking a gas station, we don't need it. We don't need it at all. And please, please, that does not need to come in Kellytown. There's 2 gas stations right within a short distance. On one side, there's a gas station on Kellytown Road. There is 3 other gas stations right up the street on the other end of 155. We don't need any more gas stations. Okay, thank you.
My name is Brenda Franklin, and I live at 570 Brook Hollow Drive in McDonough, 30252. I will say that I moved into the area for more of the country feel as well. I've been in the area since 2002 when my son at 3 years old took sick to cancer. And so I wanted an area where he could be safe as well as I could raise my children the way in which I choose to. And I almost resent Mr. Welch for utilizing that space and time with you all to express that he's gonna want to potentially put a gas station. That's not a healthy climate. I lived in the area before we put the gas station up the road off to the left of 155, and they've had break-ins. They've had to put up bars on their windows because that gas station was being broken into, which brought more violence, if you will, to the area nearest to Woodland Elementary. I moved into the area so that I can go to Union Grove schools for my children, but then there was a rezoning where you built the Woodland Elementary, Woodland Middle, and Woodland High School. It's one way in and one way out to my community, and I would prefer that not be in the face of a gas station.
Hi, my name is Dottie Green. I live on 321 Kibbe Road. We are off Old Kellytown Road, and there's 45 houses back there that are going to be coming out, and there's going to be behind the QT or whatever's there. That White House in the corner that was mentioned, house is placed on the National Historic Registry for Georgia, so I don't believe once it's on there that they can sell as a commercial. I do have a question on the amendment before this one and how something that took 2 years for the county to plan before they implemented it can be amended in one night. If that plan is 7, 8 years old, then it needs to go back to planning and zoning and they need to update it, but not in one night. The other thing that I wanted to just mention as far as other businesses there is the QT that I think it's in, whether they're saying it's a QT or not. I called corporate headquarters today and they wouldn't comment, so no comment is a comment. That we would like to see something there, another church, a daycare, even a plant nursery, something that maybe fits the community that we're involved in there. But also, if it is approved, we have no police precincts up there. As somebody mentioned about the school, that is one of the things that whenever something like that, they go on lockdown, and I have a daughter that actually teaches there, and that PTA and that they're opposed also. Thank you.
Michael Gibbs, 120 Ashland Ridge, McDonough, Georgia. I concur with everything people before me have said, but I look at you guys here, and we put our trust and faith in you as our officials to do what we ask, and I felt like you let us down, but you have to look at us and think, we are the people that look at you and expect you to do the right things. Just because you're sitting there doesn't mean you can forget who we are out here, okay? We work every day, we pay these taxes, everything, and it's not that we don't want them to live, to sell a property, it's fine. But once that's sold as commercial, what comes next? That's only the start. Or you rezone it, you approve it, they sell it to somebody else, they just go wild. The things that they agreed to say they wouldn't put there would be there. Think about that.
Hi, my name is Katie White. I'm at 333 Kellytown Road, and McDonough, Georgia, we actually just purchased the home about 6 months ago. It's the big lot right next to, right here. Oh, it's not on there. It's a big lot right next to the new subdivision, a quarter mile from the QT, and I can guarantee while we were searching for a home, if we turned that corner and saw a 20-pump gas station, we would not have purchased the home. So home values will go down. I'm concerned also about the hours. A 24-hour convenience store, even if it's not 24 hours, late hours, brings people into the neighborhood you don't want. There's a nice new sidewalk that ends at the start of our property that services that new subdivision. It's great. I walk it almost every day. But when you have people leaving a gas station with nothing else better to do but then to walk down the sidewalk, and the sidewalk ends at my land, it's a concern for my safety. We moved out here. We commute an hour to work each way happily so we can live in this suburb and raise a family, and I'm highly concerned, as everyone else is.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Hagler. I live on 679 Keeby Road. When I first found out that they were considering changing the zoning, I decided to go online and make a petition. The petition is called Keep Kellytown Residential, and at this point we have over 100 signatures of other people that feel like us that we don't want to see it turned into something commercial as like a gas station or a retail store. And we understand that you know, the property owner has the right to sell his property, and you know, it has to be used for something. But we would rather see it used for residential or something like a daycare or something that'll benefit the area. And you know, I feel like, you know, what everybody, you know, like everybody else is opposed to this, and I think that should carry some weight. Thank you.
Okay, and that concludes our 10 minutes that we've allotted for this case in opposition. Okay, thank you. Okay. Does the board have any additional questions for staff or the applicant?
There was a allusion to, there was a petition with 100 names. Was that turned into staff?
We have no record of that petition,
Okay.
but if they would like to provide it to us, we will add it to the case file.
Okay. And then, I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
We can collect it after the hearing.
Any additional questions for staff or the applicant? Okay. If there is no additional question, we'd like to call the case, please.
Case number RZ-17-03, Debbie Elliott and Holly Rediker of Suwanee, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA, residential agriculture, to C1, neighborhood commercial, for property located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Highway 155 and Kellytown Road in land lots 58 and 71 of the 11th District. The property consists of 5 plus or minus acres, and the request is for future commercial. And this property is located in Commission District 4 and was presented by Ms. Julie Yoder, Planner 1.
Okay. We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve RZ 1703 for a C1 with the following condition. That it be conditioned for a convenience store only, that can contain some, I guess, bays for gas station, for gas, but not to be 24 hours. I'm not gonna put a condition on hours there because I don't know what the hours would be for a gas station that's not 24 hours. So I do want to put that condition on there for not a 24-hour gas station.
We may want to proceed with caution with that because we cannot regulate content. So if that is permitted and if it potentially risks a constitutional violation, we probably want to proceed with caution with that.
So can I condition that upon approval of, or are you saying not to condition it with a,
Considering that could pose legal ramification, I would advise that if the condition is to limit it to a convenience store, that be the condition.
okay, so just limit it to a convenience store, is that what you're saying?
Yes, without conditioning content. We cannot condition
Oh,
content.
not condition content, okay. So not the 24 hours, okay. So C1 for a convenience store only.
We've heard the case. Do we have a second?
Can we consider an amendment to limit this also to, only to daycare or office use in addition to the convenience store?
Well, at this point, we've heard a motion.
Oh, okay.
So, do we have a second?
I can rescind my motion and make another motion to, for a gas station and a possible daycare, and you say office?
Yes.
An office, okay?
Well, Madam Chair, you're rescinding your motion.
And I'm making a second motion.
Okay.
Second.
So the first motion, we didn't have a second on, Dante? Okay, and we're rescinding that motion with an additional motion. Okay, and that
For a convenience store, daycare, and a possible office.
Yes.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, okay. All those in favor? Okay. All those opposed? Okay, and Dante, I'm the tiebreaker in this, and I'm going to oppose the rezoning.
Okay, that's no more cases to hear tonight, and motion to adjourn. Somebody, motion to adjourn.
So moved.